together an outstanding list of clients to have challenging discussions and conversations around the future of litigation. Regardless of the economic downturn, law firms need to get much smarter at the way they're driving litigation forward.
I think the structure of this type of event really has value in bringing lots of different people together to discuss a common issue where there are a different range of views and looking to offer and identify solutions.
And I think it's quite engaging to see a law firm being concerned about what a client actually thinks and what his issues. You know, that it's a good forum for them to understand businesses and how we operate.
I think that a day like this spurs many different thoughts in people's minds, whether it's in terms of the pound in your pocket, whatever that's worth going forward, whether it's the use of information technology on improving efficiencies, or whether it's just around different models of providing a service that everybody knows that at the end of the day is in the interests of the client.
It seems to me, in looking at the future, looking as the title of this event is, Beyond Resolution, it seems to me, is about dispute avoidance, dispute preemption, on legal problem solving rather than legal risk management. What most clients say to me is they would prefer to have a fence at the top of the cliff rather than an ambulance at the bottom. What about the legal market? Where's it going? Well, again, the feedback I get from the in-house community is that you, and I'm referring to the in-house lawyers in the audience, face three broad challenges. The first, in these very difficult times, is often to reduce internal headcount. The second, again in these difficult times, is to reduce spend on external law firms. And yet, the third pressure I hear is that many, if not most organizations, have more legal and compliance work to do than ever before. Now, something has to give here, it seems to me. And the phrase I use is that in the legal world, we have to find ways of delivering more for less. And I think this is actually, there's only two broad strategies. There's what I call the efficiency strategy on the one hand, and the other strategy is what I call the collaboration strategy. But the commercial pressures on all of us in the legal profession will be so strong that we will have to look at each component part of our work. We will need to decompose litigation into its constituent parts. For the first time, my external lawyers are as concerned about us avoiding disputes as we are. I think we just need to put our hands in our heart and look at everything we do and say, can we identify ways that that work could be done differently? That might mean more quickly, it might mean more efficiently, more cheaply, more conveniently. And I think when there's a highly pressurized legal marketplace, if you can think of ways that that work might be done differently, someone will actually deliver the service differently. Whether or not you choose efficiency or collaboration strategy, both in my view will be underpinned by technology. My prediction is within 3 to 5 years, the legal world is going to look very different indeed.
The first thing is whether you're providing this service in-house or externally or in collaboration or any other phrase you want to use, you fundamentally need to understand the nature of the risk that you are counselling. The second thing, IT is actually pretty critical in terms of the glue that ties a lot of these things together. External people will tell you, consultants will tell you, and they're quite right, that unless you have world-class IT systems, you can never actually run a world-class operation. You have to have certain fundamental enablers that put those things into place. We have a litigation management software, which is essentially a cost monitoring software, which we are rolling out across all of our various elements of legal spend. But it's not just a cost management tool. It is actually a work management tool, which is an element of agreement between what we want, what our firms can provide and why. But you need information, you need transparency, and you need buy-in. And if you can get all those things, it makes a very big difference.
Richard's been talking about alignment and collaborative working and delivering more for less. And I have an idea about how to deliver more for less. In fact, it costs absolutely nothing. So it must be attractive. And essentially, it's about culture match and the importance of picking your law firm to match your culture, and similarly for law firms to pick clients that match their culture. What we've done in relation to articulating what that brand is broken it down into 3 core values of commercialism, stewardship and integrity. What we're looking for is a culture match. It's a two-way process. We learn from those people as well. But what we're finding is that we're actually building teams together. We're finding people who are engaged in working with us. They think it's fun to work with us. If people enjoy working with us, then they're actually making our work a priority, not because we're able to deliver financially, which we are, but because we're actually motivating people to work with us. So we're actually strengthening performance through non-financial factors.
The idea evolved over a period of time of creating a legal community. Now, that really consists of breaking down the barriers between the panel firms and the client. In fact, the big win really, believe me, is to try to get the best people from each of the firms to work together, to sit in the same room with the same goal, which is to create great solutions for you as a client. When the external advisors are together in a room, is Sainsbury's interest the topic of conversation? Have we created a community whereby that is the overriding goal as between otherwise competing advisors? I see much more interplay personal and professional between my firms than just simply that bilateral model of me saying, do you want to do that? Can you do that better? Can you do it cheaper? Can you? And then yes, no, whatever, fall out, move on. Efficiency, I think, is something I hope will emerge from this new relationship of trust and a new alignment of goals and objectives.
Do you use technology to help manage workflow within your legal departments and to help reduce costs? And if so, how do you do it?
We have the infrastructure to do it on a number of different levels. We do it through billing, as I explained to you. We do it through e-training. So we have e-training modules that are available for our in-house people that are usually essential steps you have to go through before you go to other levels of key training around what our key issues are. And we use webinars because we have many people across different time zones, so we can get the same messages out. One of the most interesting things that we were able to do in collaborating with the firms in trying to build the nature of a virtual community almost was we have what's essentially a work product sharing system so that people don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. And that requires quite a lot of trust and collaboration on the part of your firms. So essentially we can file those things, put them in there, and people can search them in there and then pull that work off. So even though you may be in a completely different jurisdiction, at least the problem has been thought about by somebody else. You can always break down whatever you do into a process bucket. And here's how we can benchmark those processes and a cost and give you a comparison. Now you go figure out how you can improve that. So the people who are holding the budgets that are given to the people in-house to pay to the people externally, that's their method of thinking. They think about process, how that could be costed, and then how it could be compared. So
the inclination of many lawyers, in-house and external firms, to say, well, it's all quite unique what we do here. But actually, if you look at so many other industries and sectors where there's great complexity involved, they still manage to find some central spine of common behavior that could be modeled and systematized. And I really do think it's one of my disruptive technologies. I've got 10 disruptive technologies to identify. Workflow and project management. If the disciplines that we've seen in other sectors were brought into legal process management, I think we could drive out amazing efficiency. Very early days there. Will the recession mean less money is being thrown at litigation, or will contracting parties take a more collaborative approach?
I think it'll be more vicious, more desperate. It's going to get more difficult, more intractable. I don't see much grounds for thinking that collaboration will emerge as between the disputing parties. Where you have brand and you have reputation, I think there's a working assumption amongst the people that seek to recover money from people with brand equity is that you won't want to go to the High Court, you won't want to be dragged into any form of public proceedings, and therefore I think that they push and push and push. Now, the logical response to that is actually to stay firm and robust and actually upgrade your own defensive position and educate the business in taking some more risk with that, and actually to step up to the plate and become aggressive in the public arena yourself in a way that you wouldn't do in a boom year necessarily.
This is a financially driven crisis, but I think as people see different opportunities to claw back, and they're funded to do it, if it's a small dispute from somewhere, then the weak, sadly, will just have to fall away. It'll be an extraordinarily difficult and expensive exercise, and we all know how difficult and expensive litigation can be.
All of our work is done on the basis we know what we're going to pay for it before it starts. In relation to litigation, that has to be sort of parcelled up on a milestone basis so that we know what it's going to cost us to get from X to Y and then to get from Y to Z and so on. We work out the cost in that way. But we can't work on an hourly rate basis because we need to budget, and budgeting doesn't allow for hourly rates.
Seems to me the actual value question for the business is that relationship between the person instructing and the person receiving instructions so good, so finely tuned, so trusting and so honest that actually you get what you deserve in terms of a bill for the piece of work, the time you've asked it to be done in, the level you've specified, and the business criticality.
You have to see it also from the point of view of the people in the external profession who have different business models and different drivers. There are certain things that you can do. If you've got an element of certainty, for example, in what you think you need to manage, then you can perhaps strike one model. If, on the other hand, you're operating in a business environment in which the world could go crazy at any time in the next 48 hours or 48 months or whatever it might be, depending on what you're dealing with, then that's quite a big bet for the firms to look at and say, well, hang on a minute. We've got our own infrastructure to service, we've got our own overheads, and we've got our own business model. So I think it's the start of a very early conversation around how do you get that awful phrase, a win-win arrangement out there, because everybody talks about it, but nobody actually understands yet what it means, and my guess is it'll take some time for that to work through.
Being in-house counsel can be a lonely place to be, because you don't have the infrastructure of a large firm, you don't have a partnership around you to share your thoughts with. So what something like this does offer is an opportunity to share ideas, ways of managing, best practice at the level at which you're operating.
Being able to work across the groups and see what other people are experiencing has been the most useful, to see what other in-house counsel and company secretary have been seeing, to see the trends that they're experiencing.
Yeah, well, I've been helping out in the fraud session, because a lot of the work that I do is in the investigative arena, and I thought it was really absolutely brilliant that we had so many people from different organisations who were all feeling the same, which I didn't actually realise that was the case, and I think hopefully we've taken away that there is a real awareness of this and that people will start to do something about it.
The level of discussion I heard today is such that I think people will have some practical insights to take back to their offices that will actually make a difference to the way they're working.